Hello and welcome back to Building on a Budget Models. I'm Thomas and this is the third and final part of the Ford GT40 1968 Le Mans winner in 1/24th scale by Fujimi. Now when I put the floor and the interior parts together, that links together these wishbone suspension. You then put the springs in the middle. Both the front and the rear wheels need 2 polycaps in each. Found that something like these tweezers were pretty good at pushing them into place. You may need to trim off a little bit of excess. Then the hub was painted up like so, and a pin is pushed through. Pushing down onto the table may help here to really push it all the way through. Then found that spins. Use a little bit of extra help from the tweezers to prise this into place in between the wishbone suspension. There's then a controlling arm which you simply clip into place on both sides to let both wheels turn at the same time. Now the rear wheels also need these slightly larger knockoff spokes. Not sure what the actual name is of these. Most of the engine detail at the back is around the gearbox and suspension. I found that these parts didn't go together very well, so I found that using this craft blade and turning it around like a sort of drill opened up these holes a little wider. That was then painted in silver acrylic. And I then painted most of the suspension in black. I thought about detailing some of these things, as is recommended by the Revell instructions, but I thought it didn't really matter. The exhausts were done in iron from Revell. I was going to do some weathering powder onto those later on. The exhaust system is made up of 3 different parts. Here's the middle section. Then there's part of the suspension that goes underneath these springs. And then the discs go on top of those. It's important to make sure that these are all glued together really well, and also added a little bit of black panel line accent just to make the discs look a bit more worn. Again, just like the front wheels, it's 2 polycaps into both of these. Then there's a small little ring part which should really have been painted in silver, but I left it in blue, and then the axle goes into that, through the disc brake, through the gearbox, and then through the other disc brake on the other side. It's a good idea to do this before putting this into the bodywork. It'll make it a lot easier doing it at this point, and they do still move freely. Now I used this modelling weathering master set from Tamiya, used some rust and also some gunmetal onto the exhaust to give it that sort of like mid-60s look. It would be good for me to get the set which is actually designed for heat staining, but it was on my Christmas list and my birthday list. Didn't get it, but never mind, I'll have to look out for it in next time I go to a proper hobby shop. So I added some gunmetal to the suspension. That gives a really nice definition to the springs. Pretty happy with how that looks. Now, as I showed in the last part, these bits here need to be snipped off because they're for the 66 version, and instead this plate here needs to be glued into place. Make sure that this is nice and secure before attaching it to the rest of the bodywork. This really isn't the best join in the world, I would say. Then there are a couple of brackets which hold this all together, or at least they probably do in the real car. Here they're pretty superficial. The top of the engine goes into place here. Now this actually would be inside the rear window, but here it's to hide the fact that there isn't any engine detail in this car. And then there's this other sort of rectangular bracket which goes here above the exhaust. And then I decided to add some Tamiya pipe to these vents at the back just to add a little bit more detail. Now these exhausts can go on here before the engine cowling has gone on because the cowling is removable. I weathered those in much the same way as the rest of the exhaust. Now I forgot to put these on earlier. These are the door cards. I was pretty happy with how the bodywork looked from the first video. Also painted the inside black. Now the front section here is best off prised around the sides first and then sort of slid back over the radiator section at the front. I also found that the little sort of rectangular parts just behind the doors could be super glued onto the bodywork, though that would need to be held in place for quite some time. It needed to be moved back because it wanted to kind of fall forward. Now when it came to the rear cowling, I found sanded this little pinpoint here in the middle was useful to make the fit a bit more secure. And also these slots here, I found just trimming them around the edge made them go together with the cowling a little bit better. But as I say, experiment on your one. This isn't the best fitting kit in the world. You may even choose just to glue it all in place and not have a removable cowl at all. Then the fuel filler cap needs to go in place on the driver's side. This was painted in silver. Now the fog lights I found needed to be trimmed quite a little bit on the back as the fitment wasn't great. Painted in silver, and then I used a bit of contactor clear to put the lenses on them. On the box art they're all painted black on the inside, but I found that on the real one they should be orange on the inside instead. I also didn't use the decals around the edge. Most of these clear parts needed a little bit of sanding around the edge, particularly those fog light housings. Just used a little bit of contact clear for these. For the windscreen wiper, they're just painted in silver and then used some black Sharpie to add the rubber. Then there are these indicators on the front. This was added with a little bit of foam safe super glue. This is coloured in orange clear with a little bit of silver on the back. And there we have it. I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out, considering this is by no means a perfect kit. I think that the colours I've chosen, the satin finish, is all pretty correct to the original. Please let me know what you think down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.